Hello friends. As we begin our practice for this week, let's check in with ourselves again. What's happening in your body? Is it relaxed and capable, or agitated and depleted? What's happening in your heart? Is it full or empty, open or closed? What's happening in your mind? Is it distracted and spinning out, or is it calm and clear? Connect with your deepest, most authentic self. Do you feel that you can show up fully, authentically and courageously, or are you feeling the need to withdraw and hide and protect your truest self? And so as you prepare to enter this practice, ask yourself what you need most today to be at home in your skin and in your life. Set an intention for this practice and open yourself to receive what you need. And now focus on where you are in both your external space and your internal space. What's making you feel safe and comfortable and relaxed? Are there any challenges or longings or movements within you that feel like they're threatening your comfort and safety? How can you release them while we do this practice? I'll spend a moment in silence, connecting with your whole self, listening to what your body, your heart, your mind, and your spirit are saying to you. Try to release anything that makes you feel insecure or unsafe. And if you can't, that's okay. But perhaps you can just try to dial down a little the anxiety and the urge to fight, flee, freeze, or fawn. And now spend a moment in silence as you allow the divine presence and peace to fill you. A few years ago, I had the wonderful experience of being in Amsterdam on a beautiful hot summer's day. There were people floating along on the canals, sitting on couches and lounge suites that they'd loaded onto barges that were little more than platforms made of planks. In that same trip, my wife and I encountered the infamous red light district with its amazing shops and people. As we walked past the windows of the sex workers, many smiled and waved at us. And a few days later, we came upon a wonderfully imaginative bubble blower in a public park in Maastricht. The experience of seeing all this and meeting these beautiful people who were so different from me was so enriching and inspiring. We all have this desire to experience the world as others do, to enjoy more, to know more, to see more, and to connect more with things that are so very different. And of course, movies are filled with stories of people who ventured out of their safe and controlled environments to experience something new, in the quest for a richer, more vibrant, more exciting life. I love the scene in the Disney version of Aladdin where Jasmine, tired of being confined to her palace, as luxurious and beautiful as it was, slipped out to experience the world beyond the walls. Everything was so new and unfamiliar, and she was overwhelmed with excitement and joy. Until she got into trouble, which of course is how she met Aladdin. In the last chapter, we reflected on the containers we live in and the difference it can make to our lives when we look out of the window to see the world beyond our borders. Today, we take this a step further, and we begin to explore what can happen when we actually start to venture out, cross some lines, and dive into the world beyond our safe and familiar boxes. We all live with a constant need to balance security and freedom, what is known and what is yet to be discovered. We all know the urge to venture beyond our borders, cross the lines, and experience something different from the usual routine. But in spite of this yearning, we generally accept the limitations imposed on us by those who claim to be protecting us. And of course, religion often takes on this role, which can be helpful and healing for some. but restrictive and destructive for others. Most of us have been so conditioned by the norms and attitudes of our families, cultures, and spiritual communities that crossing lines is treated with great suspicion. To break out of the accepted ways of being and try a different approach is to open ourselves to danger from the outside, or so we are told, and to judgment from within our circle. Those who break the rules are always seen as troublemakers, sinners, and threats, as Jesus was, by those who uphold the way things are supposed to be. Spirituality was never meant to control us or put us in boxes. It's meant to be about finding abundant life, as Jesus put it. And that means expanding, growing, learning, discovering. But we all know the difficulty of breaking free of established norms and customs, especially religious ones. Remember how in the crab bucket story in the last chapter, the crabs in the bucket kept pulling back any crab that tries to climb out? What crab buckets are you dealing with? What lines do you long to cross? What new lands do you long to discover, figuratively and literally? What new experiences does your soul cry out for? What new ways of being would fit you better than those that have been passed on to you from your family, friends, community, culture, and religion? What's stopping you from stepping out and crossing those lines? What might be awaiting you out beyond the borders? What can you do today to begin your journey into a new world? Take a moment now to think about these things more deeply and intentionally. What one thing have you always wanted to try? How can you begin to move toward experiencing that thing now? What has kept you from doing it? And how has that diminished your life? To what foreign lands, and I'm speaking literally this time, would you want to travel? How could you do that now? Even if it's a virtual trip via the internet or just an experience in a restaurant that serves the cuisine of the place you want to go. Just maybe crossing lines isn't as bad or as dangerous as we've been told. Perhaps getting into trouble isn't always wrong. And perhaps abundant, vibrant, meaningful, fulfilling life can really only be found when we're willing to risk stepping out of the life that has been imposed on us. I'm reminded of the famous poem by Rumi. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense. So once again, take a moment to breathe deeply and take note of what caught your attention in today's meditation. Ask yourself why these things specifically connected with you. Maybe stop and write them down quickly so you don't lose them. And then when you're ready, reflect on your responses to the invitation to cross the lines. And again, these two questions might be helpful for you. Firstly, what three things do you fear when you consider crossing the lines and stepping into literal and figurative worlds beyond your own? And secondly, what three things can you do to allay these fears, to still them a little? Give you a moment to think about those questions. And now as we carry this practice into the rest of our weeks, I encourage you to stay engaged with your reflections by using the spiritual practice I spoke about in chapter 1. In your journal or on your computer, write about how you could put your insights from this meditation into practice, but write as if you are a journalist reporting the story of your experience, and this week, the experience of crossing lines and stepping into new worlds. Again, by writing in this way, you create a more objective perspective on your thoughts and experiences, and new insights can often emerge. And you can decide whether you want to write the whole report at once and then go back and reflect on it each day, or you can let the writing extend through the week, adding just a little bit each day. Just remember to write mindfully, non-critically, and freely. So thank you for taking the time to share in this practice. I really hope you found it meaningful. And may you show up a little more fully, authentically, and courageously in your life and relationships this week.